Okay, from Squatting Slav. Squatting Slav TV. All right, that's a cool guy. I like him. Spencer, what is your view on all the Jewish think tanks backing Tommy Robinson? Well, let's just go into Tommy Robinson because he is certainly, if there ever was one, an avatar of the alt-right.
And
so I'll let you start, Ryan.
Apparently,
Okay.
you're in Hearts of Iron 4, one of the risk game we're talking about. Apparently, you've been put in as a character there.
I like that.
That's amazing. That's you know you're getting big when you're in a video game.
Yeah.
Infamous or famous, regardless, you made it. No, Tommy Robinson. He's one of those guys where I really admire his personality and his character. Right, like he kind of has that tough guy persona. He's out there. He's not afraid to face Islam and the radical Muslims. That's amazing. That's great. However, he is very one-dimensional. He's kind of like a one-trick pony. And I can get into that a little bit more, just how it's kind of gotten boring, the whole Islam thing. Not that it's not important. It's just we kind of all get it at this point. Yeah. That's one thing there with Tommy Robinson. Now, he does describe himself as a Zionist. He doesn't shy away from that whatsoever. So there's always going to be that component to Tommy Robinson. He's never going to get into certain things. He's going to put kind of a lid on how much he's willing to divulge, what he's willing to talk about. And that's a reoccurring thing with the alt-right. We can apply that and just put it on autopilot for every single alt-right member. But with Tommy Robinson, it's a little different than, say, Lauren Southern, because she doesn't come out and say, hey, I'm a Zionist. She just kind of stays away from the conversation, where no, Tommy Robinson, it's a completely different story. And obviously he was in there with Rebel Media to kind of reinforce that whole Zio neocon type of thing they got going on there. So, does Tommy do a good job with Islam? Yes, absolutely. Does he really do anything beyond that? No. And has he counter-signaled the alt-right? Yes, he has. He's counter-signaled.
He did it.
Charlottesville,
He did it in ways that are just absolutely terrible. Like it's one thing to even say, I don't agree with the alt-right, or Richard Spencer in the Ethnostate, that's not who I am. Whatever. You can disagree with me, sure. But he actually said when Charlottesville was going on, he said if those neo-Nazis, so again, he just makes everyone a dehumanized neo-Nazi. If those neo-Nazis came to my town, I would go punch them. He said something to this effect, which is just totally unnecessary. He didn't need to say anything, but he said that. And also, I mean, Tommy Robinson, if we look at his career, I mean, he was the either the founder or the figurehead, certainly, of the English Defense League, which again, very similar to the Tea Party, emerged out of white angst, but was basically rabidly pro Zionist and rabidly pro-Jewish, to the point that, was it an English Defense League at all? Or was this just a neocon thing? And this is also coming from something that I know about just because I'm a little bit older, but this whole, almost this anti-Islam to the point of being perceived as a fascist while being a George W. Bush supporter and Zionist neocon. This was a big thing in the mid 2000s. And that I think, Tommy Robinson is a little bit older. This is where he's coming from. But this just unconditional support for Israel, viewing being a Zionist as somehow edgy or politically incorrect, and as the ultimate way to own the Muslims. This was a 2000 meme that I just hated. And this is Tommy Robinson, in a nutshell. And so that is where he's coming from. And he gets support by them. He was, after the English Defense League, he was actually employed by a think tank, as Squatting Slav mentioned. And the other thing is that Tommy Robinson has supporters, whereas, if you look at someone like James Fields, or let's say that, in Charlottesville, I was never arrested or anything like that. But let's say that there was some, brutal attack against me and I fought back and I spent 6 months in prison or something. these think tanks that come out in support of Tommy Robinson do not come out in support of people like me. They certainly do not come out in support of people like James Fields.
No,
And
sorry, yeah.
go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
They don't offer any form of nuanced criticism, and they don't give respect where respect is deserved. Like if Tommy were to say, people like Richard Spencer, they do great work when it comes to advocating for white wellness. However, I think they take it a step too far, and we don't actually need an ethno state. That would be a fair statement to make. They're saying, hey, we're not in that same camp, but there is some value to what these people have done. And we can make these same comments, these fair kind of evaluations of these alt-right members, and give them credit where credit is due. And if they took that same approach with us, perhaps we'd be more willing to play Mr. Nice Guy with them to try to further grow our movement. Because at the end of the day, both the alt-right and the alt-right are too small to really compete with the globalists or the mainstream conservative apparatuses. We're just too small. So at some point, one of these sides are going to win. One of these sides are going to pick up enough momentum, and they are going to be able to drive this thing forward. So, with going back to Tommy Robinson specifically there, I think he has those leadership qualities that we want. He obviously has done, again, a tremendous job with Islam, but really the problem is just the counter signaling, the bashing of the alt-right, and the one-dimensional nature of his entire content. I view it truly as this one-trick pony where, he's just beating the radical Islam thing to death. And, we need more. And I think people are starting to crave a little bit more from Tommy Robinson in general. But I'll pass it back to you there, Richard.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having ear pod troubles. I'm having to recharge these a little bit, but
that's okay. I
might need to get no. I hear you. It's coming on in speakers. I usually try to not have speakers going just in case there's any bleed into the mic, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. Let's see if these are charged up enough. Had these for a couple of years, and batteries slowly, batteries will slowly lose their punch over time. So I might need to get some new ear pods. I mean, look, I don't know what to say about Tommy Robinson. I think he's worth, I remember was this past summer where he was doing a report outside of what was it? A trial that was actually a secret trial, of a grooming gang, and he was outside, kind of making a bit of a spectacle of himself and things like that. And he was arrested, and people freaked out. The fact is, I thought that was not a good move on his part. I mean, at some point, you have to respect the laws of the country. These people were actually on trial, and to jeopardize that trial by talking about it openly and hanging around it was a rather bad mood. That being said, he struck such a chord with like salt of the earth, English working class people that it was almost hard not to support him because just because he was basically able to reach these people. It was a difficult thing. But again, he was thrown in prison. There were a lot of salacious things. All of these alt-right people like Lauren Southern were, up in arms saying how, miscarriage of justice. He's a political prisoner, which isn't exactly true. It was I was ambivalent about the whole thing. I did a podcast with Andrew Joyce actually about this issue. I was rather ambivalent about it, but I do think that Tommy Robinson ultimately leads nowhere.
I agree.
He's old, whatever good things he can say, and he certainly can say some, and however much he strikes a chord with working class English people, the ultimate end game is neoconservatism. It is Zionism. It is race blind citizenism or whatever. But it's again, it's being read as racist by the establishment because it is so anti-Islam.
Yeah, it's that whole Christian, Jewish Zionism unity that the right seems to be all about these days. Donald Trump is a perfect example, and he's the leader of the free world. So what does that say about conservatism in the West? It says that it's completely in the hands of the Zionists, or at least influenced to such a degree that we're severely compromised. And Tommy Robinson is no exception there. Going back to what happened there when he was reporting on that trial, I got to give Mark Collett a huge shout out. Mark Collett did some fantastic work actually delving in to what happened there. And, you know, on the right, you have this outrage, right? I don't think Tommy Robinson should have actually spent jail time. I do think things kind of were blown out of proportion. However, he shouldn't have been.
He was a political prisoner to a degree.
Right, right. But yeah, like the trial, there was, you know, there's a stipulation in England, part of the law there, where you can't report on a trial that involves multiple members because it's strung out for days on end. And so you can't kind of poison the well in between while that's happening. And Tommy Robinson knows this, and he was out there and he described the people that were on trial as pedophiles. So if that gets out to one of the jury members or whatever, like I said, it kind of poisons the well. Does this mean that he should have received the punishment that he received? Absolutely not. But I think it was very brave of Mark Collett to stand forward with that and put that information out there. And it really did make me think, you know, a lot of what Tommy relies on is shock value and generating attention in the public square, because let's face it, he can't rely on his intellectual prowess or a jack of all trades type of style that, say, for instance, you have. You can talk about pretty much anything. Tommy, the ceiling kind of is closed in on him rather quickly. So yeah.
Have you read the Quran? Read this line from the Quran.